Hello, it's Mike here. We're on video 9 of the Happy Manager video series. What we're going to talk about today again is mental health, and specifically how we can address situations that are bothering us that we haven't addressed and we've let simmer away and they're making us feel like rubbish. I know this is something that we're awful at, and I know it's something that I do in my own life, and I know from working with so many other managers and senior staff that this is a really common issue, that we have things that bother us, especially in the workplace, and we, for a variety of reasons, avoid addressing them. The longer that it is that we avoid addressing them, the worse they make us feel about ourselves. So why is that? Well, it's because we're going against our own internal values system. So each of us have a series of core values, a set of core values that we've developed over our lives through growing up, through being around people we care about, through being around people we look up to, and being around people we dislike. All of that contributes to us developing a value system. And when we're in line with those values, we feel happy, physically and mentally, but especially mentally, because we're being our authentic selves, we're being the people that we want to be. When we're misaligned to those values, potentially by avoiding a situation that we know we should address, we're not being our authentic selves, and we punish ourselves mentally, and we feel poor mental health because of that. And this is especially common in the workplace because of the anxiety and stress that might come along trying to address behaviour that we don't agree with. So what can we do about that? What can we do about these situations where things are bothering us but we're a bit nervous about addressing them? Well, I'm going to share with you now a tool, a really fantastic tool that you can use to help yourself address the situation or any other situation, but you can also use as a manager or people leader in a coaching perspective when you're working with your teams. And this tool is called the ACT Matrix, the Acceptance Commitment Therapy Matrix, and it comes from acceptance commitment therapy, which was made very famous by psychologist Russ Harris in the book The Happiness Trap. And I've had the pleasure of learning more about and developing my skills in the area from working with psychologist Ross McIntosh, who's the founder of People Soup. Go and check out the podcast People Soup. It's absolutely fantastic. So what we do is we take a piece of paper and we split it down the middle. So we've got a cross in the middle of the paper. At the top left, if you're facing it, you're going to scribble down what the situation is. So let's say it's having a difficult conversation with a team member. And what we're going to do is we're going to write down what are our values in that situation. And I don't want you to overthink this. I don't want you to be over analytical with it. Just go with your gut. I don't want you to think about the perfect words. Just go with your gut instinct. So when you think about and visualize your ideal self addressing this situation with this person, what are the kind of 4 to 5 values that you see that explain how that person's being? So for me, it might be confidence, fairness, determined, open, I'm honest. I might put words like that down. And that's what, when I think about what do I do in that situation when I'm being the person I want to be, what does it look like? And you write those values down. In the box on the bottom left, so below where you've just written your values, you're going to write the inner world of voices, thoughts or feelings that you get that prevent you or deter you from doing that. Okay, so why are you not addressing that situation? What language are you getting inside of your head? So again, for this example, for me, it might be they might react aggressively. It might lead to a huge argument. Other people in the team might get involved. It might lead to me losing my job. I might be accused of being a bully. So all of these irrational thoughts that you get, they need to be, and maybe some of them are rational. You need to write them down because they are blocking you. These demons on your shoulder, these passengers on the bus, as we like to call them, they are blocking you from being the person you want to be. So we need to understand what they are. So write them all down. Then what we're going to do is jump over to the bottom right, so on the adjacent square to the one where you've just written down. And what I want you to do is write down in that square, when you listen to these negative voices, what's the action that you take? So if I listen to it might result in an argument, it might lead to the team getting involved. What's the actions that I actually take? I'm going to write that I just don't address it, or I kind of mess around the subject, but I don't actually address it with them directly. I still think about it. I get annoyed because I'm not talking about it with them. I end up being short and frustrated. And what you'll find is that bottom right box where you've just written is in contrast to your values box. And this is where the mental suffering comes from, because the person you're being isn't the person you want to be, and that makes you feel like crap about yourself. And the reason that's happening is because you're listening to the world of negative self-talk. So that helps you identify the situation, helps you see how you're being in that situation. And then the next thing we do, the final thing we do, is we write in the top right-hand side, what steps can you take to move more towards being in line with your values? So looking at the negative voices, looking at the fear, looking at actually who you want to be, what steps could I potentially take to help me in this situation address that conversation with that person? So I could, for example, write down my thoughts, book in a time to talk to this person, seek advice from somebody else on the issue before I do it. But just write down steps, go away, try it. If those don't work, come back to it again. But every time that you're in a situation that's bothering you and it's dragging on for longer than it should, and that's creating some internal suffering, draw a square on a piece of paper, write your values at the top, the situation and the values, the negative voices. What do the negative voices lead to? What could you do to improve it? This is an absolutely incredible tool to help you address these situations, which will improve your mental health, but also to help your staff if they're suffering with a situation, to help them identify, what's causing this? Okay, what's the voices? Are they realistic? What can we do about that? What's some steps that we can make towards progress? The alternative for most people when they don't use a tool like this is they dwell on this thing for weeks, months and years, and it ends up being this huge thing that's really negatively contributing to their lives. People leave jobs over stuff like this because they just couldn't have this conversation with this person that was bothering them, or they couldn't get over this hurdle. But it doesn't need to be that way. We just need to get better at coaching ourselves and others how to address these situations, and this is by far one of the most effective ways that I found of doing it.